What if the moment you feel most alone is actually the moment your life is about to change? Most people wait for support. They wait for encouragement. They wait for someone to believe in them. But what if no one comes? In this video, you'll discover how to move forward, grow stronger, and succeed, even when you have no one by your side. Stay until the end. Because this might be the mindset shift that finally pushes you ahead. There comes a point in life where you realize something difficult. Not everyone will support you. Not everyone will understand you. And sometimes, no one will be there when you need them the most. Most people break at this moment. They feel abandoned. They feel discouraged. They slow down or stop completely. But Stoic philosophy teaches something different. It teaches that strength is not built when everything is easy. It is built when everything feels difficult, and you keep going anyway. Think about this. If your progress depended on others, then your life would always be controlled by them. Their approval, their presence, their support. But true independence begins when you realize that your progress must come from you. Not from external validation, not from constant encouragement, but from internal discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote his thoughts alone, often during war, surrounded by chaos and pressure. He did not wait for perfect conditions. He focused on what he could control: his thoughts, his actions, and his discipline. That is where your power lies. In what you can control. When no one is there for you, you are forced to rely on yourself. And while that may feel uncomfortable at first, it is actually a gift. Because it removes distractions. It removes dependency. It removes excuses. It forces you to grow. Most people never reach this level of growth because they are always supported, always guided, always helped. But when you are alone, you are tested. And tests create strength. Another important truth is this: no one is coming to save you. This is not negative, it is empowering. Because the moment you accept this, you stop waiting. You stop hoping. You start acting. You take responsibility for your life. And responsibility is where real progress begins. When you rely on others for motivation, your progress becomes inconsistent. Some days you feel supported. Some days you don't. But when your motivation comes from within, it becomes stable. It becomes reliable. You show up even when you don't feel like it. You move forward even when it's difficult. This is discipline. Discipline is doing what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel. Another important lesson is learning to be comfortable with solitude. Most people fear being alone. They seek constant distraction, constant noise, constant connection. But solitude is where clarity is built. When you are alone, you hear your thoughts clearly. You understand your direction. You define your purpose. You are no longer influenced by opinions, expectations, or distractions. This is why many great thinkers valued solitude. Because in silence, you find yourself. Another powerful shift happens when you stop seeking validation. When no one is there to praise you, you begin to rely on your own standards. You define what success means. You define what progress looks like. And this creates a stronger foundation. Because external validation is temporary. Internal standards are permanent. When you operate from internal standards, you become consistent. You don't need applause to move forward. You don't need recognition to keep going. You move because you've decided to move. This is power. Another key principle is focusing on small, consistent actions. When you are alone, progress may feel slow. There is no one pushing you, no one watching you. But this is where discipline matters most. Small actions, repeated daily, create massive results over time. Most people quit because they expect immediate results. But those who continue, even without recognition, eventually get ahead. Because consistency always wins. Another important lesson is resilience. When no one is there for you, you will face moments of doubt. Moments of frustration. Moments where you question everything. But resilience is built by continuing anyway. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Stoicism teaches that challenges are not obstacles. They are opportunities. Opportunities to grow stronger, to become more disciplined, to become more focused. When you change how you see challenges, everything changes. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What can this teach me?" And that shift creates growth. Another powerful realization is this: you don't need everyone. You only need yourself in a clear direction. When you remove the need for constant support, you become independent. And independence creates confidence, because you know you can rely on yourself. This confidence is quiet. It doesn't need to be shown. It doesn't need to be proven. It is simply there. And people notice it, they feel it, because most people don't have it, they depend on others. They seek validation. They hesitate without support. But you are different. You move forward anyway. There is a moment in life that almost everyone faces, but very few talk about. It's the moment when you look around and realize no one is coming to help you. No encouragement, no support, no one checking if you're okay. Just silence. At first, that silence feels heavy. It feels like rejection. It feels like you've been left behind. But what if that silence is not your weakness? What if it's your opportunity? Most people never discover their true strength because they are always surrounded by noise. Advice from others, opinions from friends, expectations from society. They move based on what others think. They act based on what others say. They hesitate because of what others might feel. Disappears. And what remains is you. This is where real growth begins. Because when there is no one to rely on, you are forced to rely on yourself. And that is uncomfortable. You doubt yourself. You question your decisions. You wonder if you're doing the right thing. But that discomfort is necessary. Because it builds something most people never develop. Self-trust. Self-trust is one of the most powerful traits you can have. It means you don't need constant reassurance. You don't need someone to tell you what to do. You make decisions. You act. And you stand by your choices. This is what separates those who move forward from those who stay stuck. Another important realization is that loneliness is not the same as being alone. Loneliness is a feeling. Being alone is a situation. And when you learn to be comfortable alone, loneliness loses its power. You begin to enjoy your own company. You begin to think clearly. You begin to understand yourself on a deeper level. Most people avoid this. They distract themselves. They surround themselves with noise to avoid facing their thoughts. But growth requires facing yourself. It requires honesty. And honesty is not always comfortable. You see your weaknesses. You see your fears. You see the areas where you need to improve. But this awareness is not negative. It is powerful, because you cannot improve what you refuse to see. Another key lesson is learning to act without recognition. When no one is watching, it is easy to stop, to delay, to make excuses. But discipline means continuing anyway. It means showing up when no one cares, working when no one notices, improving when no one is praising you. This is where true progress is made, because the work that no one sees creates the results everyone notices. Most people want recognition before they put in the effort. They want validation before they prove themselves. But it doesn't work that way. You must build in silence. And over time, that silent work becomes visible success. Another powerful shift happens when you stop comparing your journey to others. When you are alone, it is easy to feel behind, to feel like others are ahead. But comparison is a distraction. Everyone is on a different path, different timing, different circumstances. The moment you focus only on your path, you gain clarity. You stop wasting energy on others. You invest fully in yourself. And that focus creates progress. Another important principle is resilience. There will be days when you feel tired. Days when you feel unmotivated. Days when everything feels slow. But progress is not about perfect days. It is about consistent effort, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it, this is where most people quit. But those who continue, win. Because consistency beats motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline stays. Another lesson is learning to move without external approval. When no one is there to support you, you learn to trust your own direction. You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for validation. You act because you've decided to act. And that independence builds confidence. Because confidence is not built by praise. It is built by action. Action creates proof. Proof creates belief. And belief creates momentum. Another powerful truth is that struggle is necessary. Without struggle, there is no growth. Every challenge you face is shaping you. Every obstacle is teaching you. But only if you allow it. Most people resist struggle. They avoid it, they complain about it. But Stoicism teaches acceptance. Not passive acceptance, but active understanding. Understanding that challenges are part of the process. And when you accept that, you stop fighting reality. You start working with it. Another important realization is that your environment does not define you. Even if no one around you is supportive, even if no one understands your vision, you can still move forward. Because your progress is not dependent on your environment. It is dependent on your actions. And your actions are within your control. This is where your power lies. In what you do daily. Not in what others think. Not in what others say. But in what you choose to do every single day. Another key principle is patience. When you are building alone, progress may feel slow. But slow progress is still progress. Most people quit because they expect immediate results. But those who understand patience stay consistent. And consistency creates results. Over time, those results compound. And what once felt slow becomes unstoppable momentum. If you've made it this far, it means you are different. You are willing to grow. You are willing to push yourself. You are willing to move forward even when it's difficult. When you have no one to rely on, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop saying, "I'll do it later." You stop waiting for the perfect moment. Because you know there is no backup plan. And when there is no backup plan, your focus becomes sharper. Your decisions become clearer. Your actions become stronger. Most people have too many options. Too many distractions. Too many people influencing their direction. But when you are alone, your path becomes simple. Not easy, but simple. You either move forward, or you stay where you are. There is no one to blame. No one to depend on. No one to wait for. Just you. And that simplicity creates power. Another powerful lesson is learning to face discomfort without escaping. Most people avoid discomfort. They distract themselves. They look for easy ways out. But growth lives in discomfort. When you sit with discomfort, you learn. When you avoid it, you stay the same. Being alone forces you to sit with yourself, your thoughts, your fears, your doubts. And while that can feel overwhelming, it is also where transformation happens. Because when you face your fears directly, they lose their control over you. You realize that most of your fears are not real threats. They are imagined outcomes. And once you see that clearly, you begin to act despite fear. This is courage, not the absence of fear, but the ability to move forward anyway. Another important realization is that no one will care about your life as much as you do. This is not a negative truth. It is a liberating one. Because once you accept it, you stop expecting others to prioritize your goals. You stop feeling disappointed when they don't understand. You stop waiting for them to support you. You take full ownership. And ownership creates responsibility. Responsibility creates action. And action creates results. Another shift happens when you stop explaining your vision to everyone. Most people will not understand your goals. Not because they are against you, but because they see the world through their own limitations. When you are alone, you don't need to explain. You simply act. And over time, your results speak louder than your words ever could. This is why many successful people build quietly. They don't announce every step. They don't seek constant validation. They focus. They work. They grow. And eventually, people notice. Another key lesson is emotional independence. When no one is there for you, you learn to regulate your own emotions. You learn to calm yourself. To motivate yourself. To push yourself forward. This is a powerful skill. Because most people depend on others to feel better. But when you can manage your own emotions, you become stable. And stability creates strength. Another powerful truth is that your struggles are shaping your identity. Every challenge you face is building something within you. Discipline, patience, resilience. These traits cannot be developed in comfort. They are built in difficulty. So when you are struggling alone, you are not falling behind. You are being prepared for a level of strength that most people will never reach. Another important insight is that progress does not always feel good. There will be days when you feel tired. Days when you feel like you're not improving. Days when everything feels slow. But feelings are not always accurate. Progress is often invisible in the moment. It happens quietly, gradually, over time. And then one day, you look back and realize how far you've come. This is why consistency matters more than motivation. Motivation is temporary, but discipline creates lasting results. Another powerful realization is that you don't need perfect conditions to succeed. Most people wait for the right time, the right environment, the right support. But the right time is rarely perfect, and those who succeed are the ones who start anyway, even when conditions are not ideal, especially when conditions are not ideal. Because difficult conditions create stronger individuals. Another lesson is learning to trust the process. When you are alone, it is easy to doubt yourself, to question your direction, but trust is built through action. The more you act, the more you learn. The more you learn, the more confident you become. And confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you build. Another key principle is self-respect. When you continue to move forward without support, you begin to respect yourself more. Because you know what it takes. You know the effort, the discipline, the persistence, and that self-respect is powerful, because it changes how you carry yourself, how you think, how you act. You no longer settle for less. You expect more from yourself, and that expectation raises your standards. Another powerful shift is realizing that setbacks are part of the journey. You will fail. You will make mistakes. You will face obstacles. But these are not signs to stop. They are lessons. Every setback teaches you something. And if you learn from it, you become stronger. Another important truth is that being alone does not mean being weak. In fact, it often means the opposite. It means you are strong enough to stand on your own, to move forward without constant support, to rely on your own discipline. This is rare. Most people avoid this, but those who embrace it become different. Stronger, more focused, more resilient. If you've stayed this far, it means you are developing something powerful. A mindset that is not dependent on others. A mindset that is built on discipline and self-reliance. There is something most people never admit. Being alone reveals the truth about your life faster than anything else. When distractions disappear, you are left with reality. Your habits, your discipline, your mindset, and at first, that reality can feel uncomfortable. You may realize you've been avoiding things, delaying progress, relying too much on others. But this awareness is not your enemy. It is your advantage, because once you see clearly, you can act clearly. Most people live in denial. They blame circumstances. They blame others. They blame timing. But when you are alone, those excuses lose their power. You see what needs to be done. And you either do it, or you don't. This creates a level of honesty that most people never reach. And honesty is the foundation of growth. Another powerful realization is that discipline feels lonely. Waking up early when others are sleeping. Working when others are relaxing. Staying focused when others are distracted. These choices separate you. They make you different. And that difference can feel isolating. But it is also what creates progress. Because the path to growth is not crowded. Most people choose comfort. Few choose discipline. And when you choose discipline, you will often walk alone. But that solitude is temporary. Because over time, discipline creates results. And results attract opportunity. Another important truth is that your future self depends on your current decisions. No one else can make those decisions for you. No one else can do the work for you. And when you fully accept that, you stop waiting. You stop hoping someone will come and change your life. You become the one who changes it. This is where real transformation begins. Another powerful shift is learning to enjoy the process. When you are alone, there is no external reward, no applause, no recognition, so you must find satisfaction in the work itself. In the effort, in the improvement, in the discipline. This creates a deeper level of motivation. Because it is not dependent on outcomes. It is driven by purpose. Another lesson is learning to manage your thoughts. When you are alone, your thoughts become louder. Doubt, fear, uncertainty, they all become more noticeable. But this is not a problem. It is an opportunity to train your mind. To observe your thoughts without being controlled by them. To choose which thoughts you focus on. This is a core Stoic principle. You cannot control everything that happens, but you can control how you respond. And that control is everything. Another key insight is that your environment does not define your limits. Even if you are surrounded by people who don't understand you, even if you have no support, you can still grow. Because growth comes from action, not from approval, not from encouragement, but from what you do consistently. Another powerful realization is that progress requires sacrifice. Time, comfort, distractions. You cannot have everything. You must choose what matters most. And often, that choice means giving up what feels easy, for what creates growth. This is not always comfortable, but it is necessary. Another important lesson is resilience in silence. There will be moments when no one sees your effort. Moments when your progress feels invisible. Moments when you question if it's worth it. But this is where strength is built. Not in recognition, but in persistence. Continuing when there is no reward. Continuing when there is no encouragement. Continuing because you've decided not to quit. Another powerful shift happens when you stop fearing failure. When you are alone, failure becomes less about judgment and more about learning. You are not trying to impress anyone. You are trying to improve. And that mindset changes everything. Because failure is no longer a threat. It becomes part of the process. Another truth is that you don't need a perfect plan. You need consistent action. Most people wait until everything is clear. But clarity often comes from action. Not before it, so you move. You adjust. You learn. And over time, your path becomes clearer. Another powerful insight is that your identity is shaped by what you do daily, not occasionally. Daily. Your habits define you. Your discipline defines you. Your actions define you. And when you act consistently, your identity strengthens. You become someone who moves forward, no matter what. Another important realization is that strength is quiet. It doesn't need to be announced. It doesn't need to be proven. It shows in your consistency, your discipline, your focus. And people feel it even if you don't say a word. If you've made it this far, it means you are building something rare. A mindset that does not depend on others. A mindset that is strong, focused, and disciplined. Right finger subscribe now for more powerful Stoic lessons on mindset, discipline, and self-mastery. Because this channel is designed for those who are ready to grow, even when no one is watching. Final powerful ending. One day, you will look back at this time in your life. The time when you felt alone. The time when no one was there. And you will realize something powerful. That this was the moment everything started to change. Because this was the moment you stopped depending on others. This was the moment you took control. This was the moment you decided to move forward, no matter what. And that decision changed everything. Because once you learn to rely on yourself, you are never truly alone again. You carry your strength with you. You carry your discipline with you. You carry your focus with you. And no matter where you go, no matter what happens, you know one thing for certain. You will keep moving forward. And that is what makes you unstoppable. Not support, not approval, not recognition, but the decision to continue, even when no one is there. That is true strength. And once you have it, nothing can take it away.